today's lesson is we're going to learn how to divide a fraction by a whole number. All right, so these are the steps that the students are going to want to take to make sure they've got the right answer. Okay, we always want to figure out what is one piece worth. So let's start off. For example, we have 1/3, and we're going to divide that number by 3. So the very first step what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make our whole. So here we have a whole. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that whole and we're going to divide it up into thirds. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that whole and I'm going to divide it up into thirds. So here I have 1/3 right here. There's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. But we have 1/3. Now, if we read, what are we going to do with that 1/3? We're going to take that 1/3, which is just this piece, not the whole, just that piece, and we're going to divide it up into 3 even equal pieces. So I've taken my 1/3, which I put here, and I divided it, which means breaking up into equal pieces, into 3 equal pieces. Now our goal is to figure out how much is 1/3 divided by 3. Now I've broken that up into 3 pieces, but this piece and this piece are not the same size as those. So what we always have to make sure is I'm going to go ahead and make sure all my pieces are the same size. Okay, so I broke that first piece up and divided it up into thirds. Now, what I'm telling my students is, I see a number 3 here. I'm going to go put, okay, I broke that up into 1, 2, 3 pieces. Okay, but the only piece I'm ever going to shade is number 1 because I need to know how big is one piece. So I'm going to go ahead and shade in one piece. And then all I have to do now is see which pieces are double shaded. So I have my 1/3, I broke it up into 3 equal pieces, but I need to make all my pieces the same size. So that is going to equal, I have 1 double shaded piece, and I have 9 equal size pieces. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to try another one. So let me go ahead and erase this real quick. Let's try 2/3 divided by 2. Okay. The first thing that we're going to have to make sure is that I have my whole, and I'm going to divide that whole up into thirds again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make here's my whole that we started off with, but this time I'm going to make sure I'm going to divide it up into thirds. There's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And how many of those thirds do I have? I have 2 of them. So of these thirds, I have 2/3. 1/3 plus 1/3 is 2/3. I'm going to go ahead and shade in my 2/3. So that's the very first step, is we want to make our whole and we're going to make our fraction pieces. Then I'm going to divide by 2. So what am I going to do with this piece right here? I'm going to take each one of these thirds and I'm going to break it up into 2 equal pieces. So there's 2 pieces, 2 pieces. Now these pieces are all the same size, but this piece is way too big. I have to make sure I go ahead and finish up. So I've got 2 pieces, 2 pieces, 2 pieces, 2 pieces. That's the 2. Now remember what I said before. How many pieces do I have? 1, 2 equal pieces. And what do we shade in? We always shade in piece number 1. Okay. That just makes it easier for the students. So I'm going to go ahead and shade in piece number 1. they always shade in piece number 1, we can make sure, because on the CRCT, that's what they're going to have, give us a picture like this, and we're going to have to write the math problem. They won't have these numbers, though. So all we have to do now is check and see which pieces are double shaded. Okay, I can see that these 2 pieces are double shaded. That will be my numerator. And how many pieces do I have altogether? I have 6 pieces altogether. Okay, so that's going to equal 2 6. And we know later on we can reduce 2 6 to 1/3, back down to 1/3. Okay. All right. So let's try one more. Okay, now on this one, what we're going to do is we want to make sure that you're going to be able to follow the process. All right, so our problem is going to be 3/4 divided by 3. So what is the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to take my whole. So I take my whole, and I'm going to divide it up into, I'm looking at my numerator here. I'm going to divide it up into 4 pieces. And how many of those pieces am I going to shade? I'm going to shade in 3 of them because I have 3/4. Because here we have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. So I want 3/4. I'm going to go ahead and shade in 3. It doesn't matter which 3 I shade in. Okay. So I'm going to shade in 1/4. There's 1/4. There's 2/4. I can even shade in this bottom one if I wanted to, but just for make sure we try to stay neat. There's my 3/4. Okay. Now, the next step is we're going to divide each one of these fourths into a certain number of equal pieces. So how many pieces? It says divide by 3. So I'm going to divide that 1/4 into thirds, that 1/4 into thirds. This 1/4 is also going to be thirds. Now this piece has to be the same size as all the other pieces, so we get our common denominator. So we're going to look up here, we're going to see, okay, I've got, I broke them up into thirds. And remember what I said, the next step is I broke these up into thirds. I want the students to go ahead and number. How many equal pieces? There's 1 equal piece, there's 2, there's 3. Because we were dividing by 3. And now we're just going to shade in always just piece number 1 because we want to see how many, what's the fraction for 1 piece. So I'm going to go ahead and shade in 1, just number 1. So I can go ahead and look and see what is double shaded. I can see that these are double shaded, 1, 2, 3. That will be my numerator. And how many pieces do I have altogether? 3 times 4. My denominator is 12. And then later on that will